So there's been quite a bit of buzz lately around the USPS, the United States Postal Service, swirling around potential changes, and it's kind of got everyone a little on edge. I mean, you probably heard whispers about privatization, right? Like that's been a hot topic for ages, and now it seems to be heating up again, especially with this whole agreement between Postmaster General DeJoy and, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE for short. And I think most people know that DOGE is like an Elon Musk brainchild aimed at sort of like streamlining government operations. But here's the kicker. This whole agreement, well, it includes a plan to slash something like 10,000 jobs, and that's sitting well with a lot of folks. Yeah, I mean, you got those workers up in arms, unions are pushing back hard, even some politicians are jumping into the fray. So if you find this interesting, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. Okay, so let's let Briggs down a bit, peel back the layers and see what's really going on here. So when we look at the heart of this whole situation, there are a few key things to keep in mind. First off, you've got this whole privatization thing that's like a recurring theme that seems like it pops up every few years. Then there's the more immediate issue of these job cuts. I mean, 10,000 jobs, that's huge. What does that mean for the people who rely on those jobs? And finally, there's the bigger picture question. How will all this affect the services that the Postal Service provides? Like, will mail delivery slow down? Will prices go up? These are things people are worried about. Yeah, so it's all connected, right? The privatization debate, the job cuts, and the impact on service. It's like a big tangled web. Now, to be fair, Postmaster General DeJoy, he's been trying to tackle the Postal Service's financial woes for a while now. They've been projecting these long-term losses. And if DOGE agreement, well, they're pitching it as a way to smooth out those operational wrinkles and boost efficiency. In fact, DeJoy sent a letter to Congress laying out his concerns, like the management of retirement assets, the workers' compensation program, and even some regulations that he thinks are, kind of getting in the way of doing business. But not everyone's buying it. You get these massive protests popping up all over the place. Thousands of postal workers and their supporters are making their voices heard. Like in St. Paul and Duluth, they're holding rallies with signs saying things like, hell no to privatization, and first-class service, first-class pay. And over in Seattle, near the Westwood Post Office, a big crowd gathered chanting, fight like hell. They're not messing around. And a lot of these demonstrations, they've been organized by the National Association of Letter Carriers, or NALC, and the American Postal Workers Union, the APWU. So yeah, it's pretty clear postal workers are not happy about this whole situation. And the union media as well, they've been pretty vocal about their opposition to it. Brian Renfro, the president of the NALC, he spoke at a rally in Los Angeles and basically said, nope, we're not having any of this privatization talk. We're not having any of these job cuts. And if a similar story lived Mark Diamondstein, the president of the APWU, at a rally in Washington, D.C., he was like, look, this is a direct attack on the Postal Service and the services we provide. And he made it clear, these protests, they're just the beginning. They're ready to fight for the USPS. Now, one of the big fears among postal workers is that these job cuts will just make the understaffing problem even worse. They're already stretched thin, and now they're worried about even more work being piled on them. And that's going to impact service, right? If you have fewer people doing the same amount of work or even more work, something's got to give. I talked to Emily Painter in Bloomington. She's only been with the Postal Service for 2 years, and she's freaking out about losing her job. And she's not alone. A lot of endure fires are really worried. Then there's TJ Ledon Jr., the president of the NALC branch in Duluth. He was saying my carriers are already working crazy long hours, and he's not sure that just relying on retirements to reduce the workforce is the best way to save money. He even suggested, maybe they should look into investing in electric vehicles or other things like that. It might be a better long-term solution. And Joel Tracy, also from the Duluth Union, he talked about how important mail carriers are to the community. It's like, yeah, it's a tough job. You're out there in all kinds of weather, but it's rewarding. You're connecting people. You're making a difference. And over in Seattle, Kevin Gottlieb, who heads up NALC Branch 79 and has been a letter carrier for forever, well, he shares a lot of those same anxieties. He figures, the senior carriers, they're probably okay for now because of their union contracts. But he's worried that even those protections might not hold up if the pressure gets too intense. And he's not just worried about job losses. He thinks this could lead to mail delays, maybe even some areas not getting service at all. Like, imagine having to go pick up your mail from some central location. That's a hassle. And Sism Ham, who was at the rally in Seattle, she put it pretty bluntly. She thinks these changes could be a disaster for the whole country, like seriously bad news. Now, this whole thing has also stirred up a lot of political debate. Senator Tina Smith from Minnesota, she didn't mince words. She called the DOGE agreement a hostile takeover by Elon Musk. She's adamant that the Postal Service belongs to the American people, not to some rich guy, and that postal workers are public servants dedicated to, serving the people. Representative Gerald Connolly, he's been even more outspoken. He's basically accusing DeJoy of letting DOGE sneak into the USPS with the bull, weeping it, privatizing it, and turning it into a profit machine for, whoever ends up owning it. And he's demanding transparency. He wants to know exactly what's in that DOGE agreement. He's worried about essential services being cut, taxpayer information being compromised, and just, shady stuff happening in general. And he's not alone. Representative Maxine Waters, Sidney Dove, and Jimmy Gomez, all from California, they showed up at a rally in Los Angeles to support the union. So yeah, it's definitely a political potato. And let's not forget, former President Trump, he was all for privatizing the USPS. He even called it a financial drain on the country. So yeah, there's a lot of different opinions on this, a lot of different angles, but it really boils down to one fundamental question. What is the Postal Service? Is it a public service, or is it just another business? Now, the idea of privatization, it really gets to the heart of that question, makes us think about what the Postal Service is supposed to be, what its mission is. Mark Diamondstein, the APWU president, he acknowledged that, yeah, the volume of mail has gone down, with email and all that. But he also pointed out that the USPS is shipping more and more packages these days, online shopping, And he's convinced that the push for privatization is all about money. It's about taking something that's public, something that belongs to everyone, and turning it into a private asset, something that can be bought and sold and used to make a profit. And Ray Robinson, who worked for the USPS for 25 years, he's worried that privatization could lead to all sorts of problems. Delays, people not getting their mail at all, the whole 9 yards. And he made a really interesting point. He said the USPS has been operating independently for decades without taking any taxpayer money. It's self-sufficient, and people appreciate that. And Diamondstein, he really hammered home this idea of universal service. He said, look, everyone in America deserves access to postal services no matter where they live. He's worried that if it goes private, prices will go up, services will be cut, and it'll all be about the bottom line, profits over people, And there's a real fear that a private postal service wouldn't serve every single address in the country. They might just focus on the profitable areas and leave the rest to fend for themselves. And that's a big deal. The USPS, it's more than just mail delivery. It's a lifeline for a lot of communities, especially in rural areas. So yeah, this whole privatization thing, it's not just about economics. It's about the fabric of our society. It's about who we are as a nation. So let's recap, shall we? The big concerns here are service disruptions, fewer services being offered, higher prices for everyone, and of course, job losses for postal workers. And the underlying fear, it's that the universal service mission of the USPS, that promise of delivering mail to every single address in the country, no matter how remote, well, that could be in jeopardy. And postal workers, they're not taking this lying down. They've been protesting, rallying, making their voices heard. You've seen the sign, Helmet of privatization. I like hell. They're determined. And on the political front, you've got heavy hitters like Senator Sniff and Representative Connolly sounding the alarm. Senator Sniff called it a hostile takeover. And Representative Connolly is accusing DOGE of trying to sabotage the USPS from the inside. And remember, even former President Trump was on board with privatization. So this issue, it cuts across party lines. So it all comes down to this. Is the USPS a public service, something that belongs to all of us, or is it just another business waiting to be bought and sold? That's the question we need to be asking ourselves. Because the answer, it has huge implications for the future of mail delivery, for communities across the country, and for the kind of society we want to live in. Before we wrap up, if you're enjoying this deep dive, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more people and keep a conversation going.